Right, so here we are once again. It's WrestleDX plus Alpha. This is Kev. I'm Kristian. We're ready to roll one more time for a snapshot of what the viewers, the fans of professional wrestling and gaming love to do. Is talk and just roll with it and see what shit's on our mind. Because we've all seen what's happening. We've seen the blasts from NXT through Takeover War Games through Survivor Series and the repercussions and the shit that's happened in the week after, and loads of news that's happened with that as well. Plus what's happening in the non-WWE world. So, dude. Kev, how you doing, man? What's going on?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Yeah. No, it's a couple of weeks now, but I can't not cover Takeover and Survivor Series. WWE putting on 2 great nights of professional wrestling.
You know, dude, it was. I went into Takeover going, this is going to be like it always is. This will be the best night of wrestling of the entire weekend, and it didn't fail to reach that level. But then Survivor Series was actually equally as good. And it was the first time I actually saw them both pull out fingers out, and it was a great event, a great weekend of wrestling.
Yeah, it was great stuff.
And any standout matches, because even the lower end mid card, not really much happening matches were actually exceptional. So I don't even know if there was actually a bad match of the entire weekend.
The Tag Team Survivor Series match started off very typical Survivor Series, rush it out the way kind of thing, but it was later moments of it where it really did take off.
Yeah, it did shine towards the end.
The only other match that was a bit was Authors of Pain against the Bar, mainly because of the whole Drake Maverick pissing himself at ringside thing, which I thought was a terrible angle. I
get that it makes you hate him more, and that is how he's always portrayed himself. But I know there was this clip I saw today where that apparently was a real segment because they couldn't get this kind of like water thing to work. He had to actually generally piss himself for it. That's not something I would want to be able to do, you know, when there's potentially millions of people watching. But it's kept people talking about it. So is it therefore a bad thing?
I don't know. I mean, the time that Vince McMahon did the same thing back in the 90s when Austin had a gun to his head.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
And then there was that terrible storyline about 7 years ago where the only storyline they could get for Natalya was the farting gimmick.
Yeah. Yeah. The probably the less said about that, the better. Because WWE has had some lame gimmicks.
I'm sorry, but like when you've got the best technical female wrestler on your entire roster, especially at that time, and all you can get for it is she farts a little bit.
Yeah, that was pre-Women's Evolution, right? Even though actually it was after the Jazz, Victoria, Trish, Lita. So there's no excuse really. That was just stupid.
No, it was a waste of talent. It really was.
No, I guess a waste of time. I guess it's a lack of creativity as well.
Yeah. I mean, do you know what I don't understand? Back in about 2007, right, they had Matt Hardy. He'd just come back from his sacking and the whole Lita thing, and he'd just finished with the whole Edge and Lita storyline. And they didn't know what to do with him, so they put him in the ring against different people, and he had great matches.
Yeah.
And that was his storyline. It's like, here we go. Here's this guy. He's damn good. We're going to put him in with anybody, someone different every week. And I tuned in just because I wanted to see Matt Hardy have his match against, at that time, a lower card Miz. I think it was Jimmy Wang Yang and that kind of thing. Just different people every week. And eventually that led into a storyline. I think they fell into the MVP storyline from that.
That's right, yeah, I can remember that now. Yes.
I think it was about 2007, 2008, and that time period.
Yeah. Was that when he was reinventing himself after the whole V1 thing?
Well, the V1 thing died after he got the sack for like the whole Lita thing.
Yeah, that was like what?
And then he got brought back in 2006 in the rebellious "fuck you WWE" thing, and I'll kill you Edge and all the rest on it. And then they managed to boot him over onto SmackDown exclusively.
Yeah, that was it. Well, was it really that long ago? Was it really 11 years ago? Jeez, man.
Yeah, it really was.
Man, so what has happened in the world of wrestling this past week? then. So leading from Survivor Series NXT, right? So that was a week and a bit ago. So that had severe repercussions over the course of what's happened in the last 2 weeks. Of course, we had the whole thing what's happened with Nia Jax hitting and knocking out women and causing severe injuries to the point where is she unsafe in the ring has been the most frequent controversy. Becky Lynch, of course, with a broken face, actually serving up a very Stone Cold Steve Austin moment with the bloody mask and thriving in the environment as opposed to rolling out the ring and having to cry about it.
How good did it look as well? It was a fantastic visual, and she didn't just like sit there. Oh no, oh no, no! No, she went. You know what? Fucking mop me up and let's go.
Yeah, that takes. I hate to be stereotypical, but that takes balls, and she's got them in abundance in her hands, each hand.
Well, that's because she's the man.
Yeah, she is the man. She's the man of the show. So I was talking to Jace earlier about this. So Big Show was the guest on Sirius XM. It's a radio show in the US where Bully Ray's the typical presenter, and he was on there talking about that very angle. And he's like, there's no other angle in WWE right now that actually is anywhere near as hot as what's happening with Becky Lynch. And there's no reason why it can't go to Ronda Rousey and Becky going all the way to Mania, and that'd be the main event.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see that. I think, though, this whole Becky Lynch's flare-up in popularity has definitely made the WWE decide that maybe, just maybe, we should go with Becky Ronda at Mania instead of Charlotte. And I mean, they've done Charlotte.
Yeah, they've done it already.
Rousey now.
Done it.
God damn, was that good.
It was good, but done now.
And I tell you one thing, the beating Ronda took afterwards with that fucking kendo stick.
Fuck me, dude. That was that X on her arm and her back, bloody cuts everywhere. But I mean, she
the shot across the back of the head, for God's sake.
Yeah, she could fucking beat it. But then, did you not think that the crowd was a bit like, shit? They were cheering for her. You deserve it. That was like harsh as fuck.
That kind of baffled me. It's like it was a great match, and the only thing I can think of it is it's like the New Day managed to hype up the fans earlier on in the night to boo Raw. They actually booed the Raw roster, and yet and they cheered the SmackDown guys. But that was part of New Day thing. It's the only thing I can really think of. It's like the fans got turned into SmackDown fans, which is amazing because right now SmackDown is fucking dreadful.
Who'd have thought that would ever say that? SmackDown's dreadful. It's crazy.
2002, I'd hung myself for saying that because that's loner. Back in 2002, SmackDown was the best wrestling show in the world.
Bar none.
And in 2003 into 2004.
Yeah,
that time period there. If you haven't seen it as well, go on the WWE Network, check out SmackDown during 2002. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
the talent roster was amazing. The wrestlers were on SmackDown.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
Truly was. So since then, we've had Kurt and Drew McIntyre as well. That happened on Raw last week.
No, it was a few weeks ago.
Was it 2 weeks ago?
Even Survivor Series.
Was it? I thought it was the one after. I must have missed it.
No. The thing is, I know it was a couple of weeks ago. I want to talk about it because I thought that was just tremendously done, and they did a fantastic job of pulling out the emotion out of Kurt. The haggard old star slowly burning out as this new superstar monster absolutely decimated the Olympic hero.
Yeah, good story. A lot of emotion. Fans were into it within minutes. You could tell they're both perfectionists at their craft. And the like you said, the emotive story they were told as a roller coaster actually was really good. However, if you look at the internet dirt sheet, shall we say, the view was very different. They didn't like it, but I loved it for that very reason. I was being told a story. I was invested in what was going on. It was good.
It's strange, I don't understand. It's like the fans want this, they get it, and then they don't want it. We want more emotion in our wrestling. Okay, we'll give you a really emotional match. We'll take Kurt Angle, who's going to wrestle Drew McIntyre. They're going to have a decent match, but then it's just Kurt's going to run out of steam, and Drew McIntyre, who's the younger, stronger, bigger talent, is just going to dominate. And then what I think people didn't like is the fact that Drew toyed with Kurt, and people didn't want to see that. But I also know that Kurt and Vince McMahon worked on this angle, and they brought Drew in to let him know what they were going to do. And to me, it worked. It made Drew look like a fucking star, a monster, someone that could take Kurt Angle and just make him not look a jobber, but take Kurt Angle's best shot today and just go, oh, that hurt a little bit. Right, well, game on.
So you think that really is building up now towards what might come next, which I guess they're going to be lining up Drew McIntyre, perhaps going into Mania, fighting someone like the bigger guys, like Brock, like, well, everyone really. It's a Big Show, and Braun Strowman. Is that
It'll be interesting to see where they go. They've teased the whole Strowman, Drew McIntyre storyline, and after this week's Raw, where Baron Corbin, Drew McIntyre, and Bobby Lashley, between the three of them, took out Braun Strowman. They took out his arm as a part of the storyline so he can go get his arm scooped.
Yes.
And now they're actually praying that he's okay for TLC for this TLC match with Corbin.
Yeah, gotta pray, gotta cross those fingers. Right, so I guess, like, if you're a wrestling fan now, as we've said quite a few times now, it's like, it's the premium prime time of being a wrestling fan again. I mean, this is like, it's far ballooning what was the Attitude Era, the NWO stuff. You know, the Bullet Club's obviously gone worldwide. The Raw and SmackDown have more publicity than ever before. But for some people, I don't think that's enough for a lot of people. I think they still want more. And there's more 5-star matches that have happened in the last year than ever. It's crazy that we're almost now being oversaturated with really, really great wrestling. How long do you think that can actually last?
Do you know what? I think it can last as long as the wrestlers keep coming. And with the independent scene being as hot as it is, as the WWE managed to cultivate their own talent, and whether they do make it onto the main roster, and whether they do manage to like make it, or they don't succeed and leave and go somewhere else, Drew McIntyre, there's always that chance they can go somewhere else, come back and be bigger stars. EC3.
Yes, without a doubt. I think talent that has done that, you know, there's a betting on yourself. You know, that's a big thing for a lot of guys now, is that just because you don't make it in WWE, or you look at yourself and you go, you know, I'll come back and I'll try again. There's nothing wrong and there's no shame in doing that anymore. So I've been playing through 2K19, and the showcase mode, of course, is the story of Daniel Bryan and how he left the WWE twice after he was brought in. He had his opportunity against Cena, then he had his scene against when he came into NXT start, and then he didn't have a job after that. Then he came back again. They have nothing for him. But so, and he talks there quite candidly about when William Regal says, "No, go and hone your craft elsewhere. Then when you're ready, you know, we'll approach you again." And I think that's what needs to happen now.
There's quite a few cases of it, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it really works, and sometimes it just doesn't for a second time either.
No. There's nothing wrong with looking elsewhere.
No. But I just think that everyone harps on about, like, you know, the late 90s, the early 2000s, where, you know, the business was better because you had somewhere else to go. And now there isn't that now. But there is now.
Yes.
Impact's on the rise again. WWE's the monster still, and it always will be. New Japan is a viable option. The Indies is hot as hell. And only God knows what the Elite, former Bullet Club, are going to do.
Yeah, with the All Elite Wrestling now been announced this past week, which will be Cody, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Jericho, Jim Ross, and what's this other guy's name? Brian, somebody. He's like Jim Ross is kind of a lawyer. They've all obviously got together. They've signed some kind of deal with Shahid Khan, of course, runs the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's their owner. Fulham FC. He's been trying to purchase the Wembley Arena. I think there's now fell through. You know, they're now swimming in quite a lot of money, and they're willing to bet on themselves to go, we actually can provide a viable alternative, you know, after All In, you know. So you have what's called Double or Nothing, which is the next super show they're intending to do. And then potentially there was something I saw the other day called All Out, which may be the beginning of this All Elite Wrestling. But yeah, you're creating a viable alternative with a lot of financial clout that can quickly become established, and it's there's opportunities for guys to leave WE or guys who are on their training development guys to look elsewhere. Whether it'll ever become equal to WE or even a slight even percentage of what their output is, because at the end of the day, you've got to get butts in the seats first, and before you start making a name for yourself and developing stars, you've got to make sure that you have enough star power that makes people want to watch your show in the first place. Which I think actually must be really hard for a wrestling company, actually.
Yeah, but it's like Jim Cornette once said, if you could have the 25 best wrestlers in the world to start your wrestling company, who would they be? And the first thing he says, I wouldn't want the 25 best in the world, because if I did, who would I go to after I was done with all of my feuds?
Yeah, you wouldn't.
You want 10 of the best, you want a bunch of mid-carders and some jobbers, and then you can switch and mess with what you've got, and once, someone gets a bit older or they don't feel that their time there's as good, you can switch the gears.
Yeah, I think about ECW with that, when guys like Terry Funk were actually coming in and they were willing to put guys over, which at that time was just unheard of. No one wanted to lose their spot on the card. So you had like Terry Funk putting over guys like Shane Douglas and Perry Saturn, who became much bigger and much better, and they became the bright stars of the company. And then obviously they went on to have big careers elsewhere. And that's what you want. You want guys who... It's not really about what's your position now, it's the politics of actually you've got to train the next guys. How am I making the industry and the scene better than just me? While also looking after yourself and paying the bills and putting food on the table for the kids. I think wrestling positions itself is quite unique.
I also think that with the Elite possibly leaving New Japan, which looks like it's going to happen now, it looks like they're going to do their own thing. Doesn't look like New Japan's going to be their home. Although, unless of course they decide to, do the whole Ring of Honor thing.
Yeah,
Simon. They still pour talent and then they'll still work New Japan. I think with the Elite leaving New Japan, it's going to hurt business for New Japan.
I think so too, because the reason why most people have been watching it the last 2-3 years is Bullet Club in their current guys. I mean, even before that, Bullet Club's been floating around since 2013, 2014. But it reached nowhere near the hype it did until the Young Bucks took over and, took the ball and ran with it.
Well, the Bucks was always part of it. It was a case of the leadership that changed. It was Balor, and then it went to Anderson, and then it went to Styles, who went on and did pretty well for himself elsewhere. I'm not quite sure what happened to him, though. And Kenny Omega.
Yeah. There's a particular match where, and I think it's one of Kenny Omega's best matches, actually. He when he becomes the leader of the Bullet Club, and in order to do so, it's a match where he uses the finishing move of everyone who was his best friend or his mentors of the other leaders as well. So he does Balor's finishing move, he does the top rope stomp, and he ends up doing the Styles Clash. And then he does Kota Ibushi's last ride, which is the sit-out powerbomb, with the extension. And it was just like, man, the emotion in that match was untold. I'd never seen anything like that match that drew me in. I was like, I know those guys, I know where you're pulling from. And then he became the leader of the Bullet Club from that match onwards, defeating Styles. Oh, so good.
Yeah, it's just a shame that it's probably going to hurt New Japan. It's funny because I'm sure in an interview not too long ago, Naito had said that he doesn't want to be drawn over to the WWE because he wants to make New Japan great again, but with less gaijins.
Yeah, because they now have a non-Japanese business owner, don't they? The CEO of the company is now a Denmark guy. Who's much more involved with international business. And I guess that makes a lot of sense. He's a huge wrestling fan, and I get why you'd want to put non-Japanese guys on your card mixing it up. I perhaps don't also agree with the fact that right now most of the titles are not on Japanese guys, when arguably it's a homegrown promotion where the audience are all Japanese fans. So it's a bit weird that they're going to watch gaijin wrestlers. Now, I would understand why perhaps there might be some kind of invasion or a rise-up angle where the Japanese stars take all their belts back. That could be an interesting angle. But there's guys on there I want to see in main events like Goto, and I want to see guys such as Kushida move up. Even Evil. I want to see this guy move up and do something new, which his match with Jericho was pretty good. But he's a bit bland. I don't. Maybe it's just a finishing move. I just doesn't go on me.
Yeah. It's just they've got a lot of talent, but it just I don't think as many of the Japanese stars resonates with fans from else around the world.
No, I guess that's a
It's
difference, isn't it?
harder to take in. I mean, don't get me wrong, Okada's definitely someone to watch anyway, and you know the top guys, Naito in that. But anybody lower than that, it's like it's that other Japanese guy in them funny pants or in the black trousers instead.
Yeah. Oh, they've got Ishimori in there, the Bone Soldier. He's jumped from Pro Wrestling Noah to come to the Bullet Club, and I do think the Bullet Club is almost a bit of a dumping ground, really. Well, nowhere to put these guys. He's not from Japan. Throw him in there. And I guess that
It's almost become the new NWO.
yeah. Well, I guess the main was the
It's
Bullet
like,
Club.
oh no, we need to get this guy over. Put him with them. He'll be all right then. We can move him around after.
I guess maybe the
They'll get
exceptions.
him over.
There are exceptions to that, like Ospreay and Juice Robinson, who float around the card, do lots of different things. But obviously, have been US champ, who are the junior heavyweight champion. I do a phenomenal job at doing so. But their mainstream appeal is the fact that they're non-Japanese.
Yeah, with Osprey as well. It's definitely the fact he's just hyper athletic.
Yeah, that guy's genius in the ring.
Virtually no one else on the planet that can do what you can, other than Ricochet. Flip Gordon is a close third.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a couple of other guys out there that can do close to, but next to no one can do what those two can do.
I guess they're going to be building up also Ospreay and for Wrestle Kingdom. What's his name? Kota Ibushi.
Kota Ibushi is amazing.
Yeah, dude. Man crush. That guy's ability is just lightning above everything. I tell you what I did. Tell you what happened yesterday, right? So I was playing 2K19. I played through the career mode, and so there's actually a mode in that game where you start as an indie wrestler, and you basically are taken into NXT, or you're approached by NXT. But in my case, my character was kicked out by Triple H, and then I went back to being an indie wrestler again, working my way back in. And I was listening to this match, and they mentioned Kota Ibushi's name in the commentary, and I was like, "What? Yeah." But they mentioned it in the context of the Cruiserweight Classic, and I was just like, "Oh, that was his main event. That was a really great guy. He came into here, so it was Kota Ibushi, and he kicked out. What?" I was just like, "My God!" They mentioned him by name, as well as the Meltzer driver as well. So
really, that's fantastic.
So I was just like fully mocking, and the story mode actually it's good. It's really well acted too, but I guess more on games later. So what else has happened then? So we got. Should we switch gears to NXT UK then? So should we go worldwide? So we've been to America, we've hit Survivor Series NXT, we've hit Japan.
Yeah.
So the UK now. So NXT UK has a takeover show coming, announced for Blackpool, and that happened over the weekend. That was Triple H came out and he was like, "We're going to have an NXT UK here in the UK, a takeover show," which is fantastic. I think that's what we've needed for quite some time.
To be honest, I think this is their way of getting NXT on a monthly scale. It's just that it's not going to be just the US NXT.
Yeah, I see what you're thinking about. Yeah, because that way you could have an NXT show every month, effectively, or a super show every month. Because I guess you have they've announced like on the sideline of NXT Germany and Europe, an Asia one, a South America one. So I guess you could run an NXT super show almost every month using a different roster. So that's a bit extra money in the older coffers, isn't it?
Be interesting to see how those ones turn out.
Yeah, but NXT UK appears to be the next big shot at Europe, which had me thinking. So, do you think, if NXT Germany takes off, which is, I guess, with the purchase of WXW, and those guys moving across, and perhaps their cross-brand changing, we will see the return of the European title?
It's interesting to see. But if that's the case, then if they do like an NXT Spain and that, surely that'd be a title that'd move around.
Yeah, maybe. Like, would it be a major belt that floats between European or even other promotions. With the NXT dubbed.
Yeah, it's...
Because we saw the tease of Pete Dunne and Adam Cole at NXT Takeover War Games at the end, where one's got a UK belt and one's got a North America belt, and they're like having a nice good smile and look at each other, this belt. And I thought, okay, I can see what they're going to do with this. But to throw a European title in there.
They already tried that, didn't they? They actually did that on NXT a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago.
Yes.
And they put both belts on the line. It's like, there's no way this is going to conclude. There's no way either of these guys are dropping their title to the other one.
No.
This is definitely going to end in a run-in or a disqualification, something like that. And of course, Undisputed Era was having none of it.
Yes. I mean, that is the way to tease it and keep it pushing it down the road. So people are going, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And when it does, it's like, oh my god. Yes. But so that ties in. I mean, we if you're a wrestling fan and you're watching like Reddit and you've watched, or you know people have been to the NXT UK shows, the what is going to happen building up to the NXT UK Takeover show. It's already happened. Those 24 episodes have already been recorded, and the storylines are already out there. But of course, if you're watching it on TV on the NXT, so on the network, it hasn't happened yet. So it would be improper to say who those matches are going to be, but you know for sure that Pete Dunne's going to be in the main event. So
yeah,
that,
of course,
yeah. So
of course, we can't even mention who the women's championship match is because, well, they haven't crowned the women's champion yet.
No. Can we say it? No, we can't say Rhea Ripley.
Sorry.
How dare you mention a word?
With something.
Yeah. So UK Performance Centre apparently is also on the cards, which makes huge sense for that to happen here, for a development place and a development location in the UK to happen, coupled with the NXT UK. I think that's a huge boon for, well, I guess a lot of European guys will be coming through there, and also trainers coming over from the US, and I think that'll be a huge boon for guys who've been looking for that place in the UK to hone your craft.
Yeah, I suppose there's every chance that Regal might transplant himself if he decided to come home.
Yes. Absolutely.
Or even Robbie Brookside as well, because another British guy.
Yeah, and obviously, guys like Doug Williams and Nigel McGuinness still floating around too. But so I think the next, obviously, we've got a bit of a card here of story that we're going to be talking about. So the collision course that is happening, that is WWE and Impact Wrestling are on a collision course, but not in WWE or Impact. They're going to be fighting against each other, potentially, in Evolve. Which, if you don't know what Evolve is, Evolve, you could say is Ring of Honor version 2, because it is Gabe Sapolsky, who was the creator of Ring of Honor. He left Ring of Honor and created Evolve, which is billed more like MMA, where every match still has wins and losses that appear to count towards story, and they have a lot of important talent that comes in. Their current tag team champions are NXT Street Profits, because they have a working relationship with NXT and WWE. However, LAX, Impact Wrestling guys, are making their Evolve debuts on the 15th of December, which means we're going to see both an Impact Wrestling tag team champions and the NXT main tag team champion. Well, they're not tag team champions, of course, in NXT, but they are a major part of that promotion, colliding in a non-WWE, non-Impact ring. That just boggles the mind that WWE would even allow that to happen, let alone Impact.
It's not the first time, though. I mean, not too long ago, the Impact World Champion, Austin Aries, went against the UK Champion, Pete Dunne, in a match in a third-party promotion just a few months ago.
It's crazy to consider these things even happen. But they do.
And here we go. This is what I mean. The indie scene right now is red hot. And there's nothing that even the big companies seem to be able to do about stopping it.
I guess it keeps people talking. It keeps the names on people's lips, and actually, by partisan of doing that, it keeps the marketing going. It keeps the stories going. It keeps people interested in it and invested. So actually, for all parties involved, it's a win-win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless, of course, you're the WWE and don't want anybody to know that anybody else, anywhere else, is WWE.
Yeah, it's the WWE universe for a reason. That's why they don't even acknowledge NXT's existence. which is still counterintuitive for us.
To be honest, though, that has been the best thing for NXT.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. I mean, look at Raw and SmackDown. They know that the other one's there, and yet, apart from the top guys and girls, they don't do anything with anybody else. The tag team divisions in both shows are a joke. Do you know what? Do you know what I really think we should do? I think we should start a hashtag for the tag team division. It worked for the women's. Maybe we should have a tag team revolution.
Yeah, that could.
We know that the tag team divisions can succeed. We've seen the tag teams come through NXT, and they have blown everybody away.
Yeah, true.
And then they do tremendous in NXT, and they have fantastic runs. They make it to the main roster, and they're either turned into jokes, footnotes, or split up and
forgot about.
Eventually disappear.
I mean, Bubba Ray. I can remember him talking in conversation on. I don't know if it was an Impact show. It was certainly when he was time with us in Impact with the Aces and Eights. And he says there's no reason why tag team titles are not the equivalent of the world title, because you are the world titles, but you're a tag team. There's no reason why it shouldn't be also occupying the top spot every so often in a cycle, the same way the women's and the world title do. And he's right, but
exactly.
What happens, unfortunately, they're kind of like the show openers. They put two guys together randomly, and they become tag team champions with the inevitable split up fight to happen. And there's no tag teams that actually have a unique name together as much anymore. And the ones that do, like you said, just get forced to be broken up just because they want them to. But look at teams like...
There's so many versions of this as well. I mean, the Vaughn Villains. But to be fair, Simon Gotch got himself sacked, which left Aiden English a bit out on the ledge.
Yeah.
But they did that with Cass and Enzo. And look how that worked out for both of those guys.
Yeah, without a doubt.
They did it with American Alpha, which was completely unwarranted, considering both of them were freaking awesome. And all they've done since that, I mean, Jason Jordan's injuries, it can't be helped.
Sure, but that injury might not have happened had he had the storyline of American Alpha staying together, because they wouldn't have gone down the angle of the Angle thing.
Yeah, which killed his career.
You want Angle's son?
It doesn't matter how many great matches he had with many different people. It was irrelevant. You're not Kurt's son. We all know you're not. We're not buying it.
Yeah.
It's like red cords. No one's buying that crap.
So, where do you think they were going to go with that? Do you think they were actually going to cut it off at some point, or were they actually going to legitimately carry on that as for a long period of time?
I would hope that they'd have just turned around eventually and gone, oh no, it was all a ruse, Kurt was tricked, it never happened, this is my real father, and, actually be his actual dad.
Because it wasn't a DNA test like on Sonic on Raw? Was it something like that? How it came out? Was it a DNA angle where he got proven to be Kurt's son or something?
Oh no, the whole mobile thing where Kurt was being distracted by constant messages, and Corey Graves was somehow pulled into it, and Kurt just came out on Raw and said, many years ago, before I was married, I was involved with this really wonderful African American woman.
Okay.
And it went down that way, and everyone was like, oh no, we're not going yet. And let me introduce my son, Jason Jordan.
But Jason Jordan actually got
this crap.
But he became a hated heel, and I quite liked him as a hated heel. But I would prefer to see him in American Alpha, being Team Angle.
Yes, absolutely. Like that wouldn't have worked.
I know. A new generation Team Angle. Then you had Shelton Benjamin to float back in, going, wait a minute, why am I leading this team? And he could have took them back off and have feuded and stuff. You can add lots of possibilities there, but hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah, like they couldn't have brought back Charlie Horse.
I know. I mean, did you see the run that Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin had in ROH? They had an amazing run there. Heck.
I bet they did. I didn't see it, but I'm sure they did, because them two were just amazing. And it's like they pulled them apart in the WWE and they kind of drifted them back together again. And even drifting them back together again. They're the classic with the Hardys in a ladder match, a tag team match. I mean, what? Wow.
Yes. Well, how old do you think they are now? About mid-30s? Our age?
They've got to be late 30s, early 40s.
I mean, Shelton looks fantastic still. Isn't it weird that Shelton's never found himself in the main event position? With the ability of that talent that guy's got.
Well, they tried to push for it in about 2004, and I think it became a case of Triple H got his spade out again.
I see what you did there.
Yep. Burial time.
Yeah. So I mean, I wrote some more notes down here that me and my son were bantering back and forth on. So I'm not sure how you wanna run with these next two segments here. So don't you think it's interesting that AJ Styles, the guy who literally is the face of WWE right now, in fact I was shopping yesterday and I saw this T-shirt, WWE T-shirt, and it had like the four pillars of WWE, and they had AJ, Braun, Cena, and Roman Reigns on the front. I was going, AJ at the top of there. Who'd have thought I'd have ever seen that 10 years ago?
I know, even to think it just 5 years ago was like, no.
And he really.
But then again, to even think that AJ Styles would turn into the talker he has this year, the last couple of years.
Absolutely. And AJ is the reason you watch SmackDown.
There's any more reasons why.
Even though he hasn't made events.
Maybe it's to watch. Maybe it's to watch Samoa Joe job again, or maybe it's to watch Jeff Hardy hit a swanton, and you go, "Ooh, maybe you should stop doing that now because we know you're not in your 20s."
Yeah, I'll never forget. There was this Impact Wrestling match where he fought Abyss in a ladder match, and he did his swanton, and Abyss moved, and he landed back first over the stairs, the metal staircase, and you're just going, "Fuck, that guy is just dead, utterly dead." There's no way anyone's recovering from that.
I remember a worse one.
Yeah.
To cast your mind back to about 2008, around about there. It may have actually been earlier. It was about 2006, and it was Jeff Hardy in a feud against Johnny Nitro for the Intercontinental title. And they did all sorts of matches back and forth. And on Monday Night Raw, they had a ladder match. And Melina was at ringside, and they did a whole bunch of stuff that you could imagine Johnny Nitro against Jeff Hardy stuff they did. They set up, there was a ladder laying on the floor, lengthways away from the corner, and Jeff slammed Johnny Nitro along the ladder, and he went for his swanton, and Johnny Nitro moved, and he landed straight across that ladder, all the way along it, and he bent the rungs on it. And the camera even caught a glimpse of Melina in the background going like, "Ah." Even she thought he was dead.
Yeah, there's been many
but
times.
He still got up and still continued that match. But god damn, landing on the rungs of a ladder, just laying there, prone on the floor. Just what the Who went, that's a good idea? Who did that?
There was this angle I saw like earlier in the year where a guy did a pile driver on Lego. And then like
I think I'd have rather taken the tax.
Yeah,
You ever stood on Lego?
Fuck yes.
It hurts. It really hurts.
Who was
it?
it?
A toy be that sharp.
Who did it? And then someone did a double foot stomp off it in bare feet as well, just onto Lego. I'm just going, no. Why would you do that? No. Give me the thumbtacks.
Yes, that's right. I've done this now, and later on you can catch a video of me razor blading my eyeballs.
Yeah. So
you've got to have something wrong with you.
AJ Styles, right? So he is the champion of SmackDown, even though he never main evented a pay-per-view for the entire year that he was a main eventer. So he was world champion, which I think is a huge disappointment. But like,
do you know what? Right. Not to cut you off, but I think people put way too much emphasis on that.
You think so?
Because, yeah, who cares? Really, who cares?
But it's AJ.
I mean, time and time
world title
again,
holder.
Brock Lesnar main evented a card. Whoop-de fucking do. And with the exception of 1 or 2 pay-per-views, the majority of Brock's matches, who fucking cares? suplex, 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 maybe a punch, more suplexes, an F5, maybe a couple, a pin. What's he fucking do? And that's the main event. You knew what would come in. Nobody tuned in for that, really. More people was interested in seeing what Styles was going to do against Samoa Joe or Nakamura.
Yeah, I mean, I was really invested in Nakamura's.
Rusev.
Yeah.
I mean, in a throwaway feud, Styles versus Rusev was, I think, was a 4-star match.
Same here. That was a good match.
Throwaway.
Yes, and it was a throwaway match. But
and who cared if that wasn't the main event? It was probably the best match on the card. If it wasn't, it was definitely one of them.
Yeah, true. But I was thinking really about AJ needing a cup. And I think that should actually be an angle. You know, how he hasn't learned to use a cup yet. Because he's been low-blowed by a majority of his opponents as the way to extend or to end a feud. Whether that was Nakamura, or that was Joe and Daniel Bryan. You know, I would like to see someone attempt a low blow and then he pulls out a cup as a segment. I learned this time.
Bit of Roddy Piper.
I just think that would be really funny, and everyone gets it because everyone knows that he was susceptible to low blows.
Yeah. That guy must have balls the size of grapefruits because they're all swollen. But to be honest, I can understand why he got caught with Daniel Bryan. Nobody saw that coming.
No.
But if he gets caught with it again, like he did with Nakamura, over and over again. Seriously.
Yeah, just wear a cup and just...
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yes. I don't think that can play into an angle that he's now learned his lesson.
Yeah, I can't.
So talking of things
seriously, thinking about it, just if you're a writer on the SmackDown team, no wonder SmackDown is going down the pan. Because your writing sucks. It's like, oh no, AJ's got to lose a match. Let's kick him in the balls. That's an idea. Let's do that.
Did we do that before?
If that's the only thing you've got over and over again.
That ain't
Why
smart.
are you a writer?
Why are you a writer, indeed? Talking of low blowing people, I think there's been a low blow to the fans of WCW, which I, of course, was one of them at the time. So WWE Starrcade was this weekend, which was a super house show rather than a pay-per-view or any kind of event. And it was a house show that isn't really in continuity with the rest of the universe right now, the WWE universe. It was a super house show promoting Starrcade. And I think it's a bit weird because Starrcade predates WrestleMania as a big show. And I think it's a really big finger up to everything what WCW was and what the NWA was at the time, of how it's not considered to be part. They're doing a show, but they didn't promote it in the same way they would any other super show, like the Super Showdown or the Greatest Royal Rumble or any of their kind of big shows. It was just, well, it's a kind of special event. We're doing it to one side, and we're not going to put it on the network. We're not going to have it. It's kind of just going to be at the show, and we're only going to show clips of what happened there. It feels a bit like a bit of a letdown, and a bit of a finger up in many ways. And I think there's a missed opportunity to not have Starrcade as part of your main pay-per-views of the year.
On my views on this, it wasn't supposed to be. It was just a way to draw in local fans to an event. That's what they did last year. They had a Starrcade last year.
Yeah.
They tried to pull in some NWA guys. They had Goldust turn up as Dustin Rhodes.
Yep.
And they pulled in some of the old stuff, and they didn't put it on the air anyway. And apparently it was a pretty decent card, and it went over with the fans. Have you actually seen this year's?
I've only seen clips. I literally haven't seen the event, of course. I just think it's
awful.
Yeah. So apparently there was a cage match there. Apparently Harvey, what's his name?
Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, obviously, Bray Wyatt came back, but not in here. Apparently, in his new character, he was still his old Bray Wyatt. Because apparently he's going to be performing a new gimmick, and I heard that there was a 4-on-4 women's match there, which is quite good.
It was okay. It was
a house
Raw match.
It's a cross-brand super show, but local only. which just seemed really odd. I mean, like last year there was wasn't it Drew McIntyre and Adam Cole with Shawn Michaels as the ref?
I'm not sure. I'll have to take a good look at that, but it was a good card. I mean, the highlights shown on the network was the 8-woman tag, which was a away Raw match. They had into Ray challenging Nakamura for his title in a very short piece of which ended up bringing up people involved. Miz got involved, caused disqualification, and then Rusev came down and it turned into a tag match. Sure Theodore along somewhere was rolling over in his grave and he's not even dead yet.
Yeah.
And then there was a cage match because, you know, if you're in North Carolinas or in that kind of region, obviously
gotta have a cage
you
match.
need to have a cage match.
Which was Seth and Dean Ambrose.
Meh.
Yeah. So, I was thinking, should Starrcade actually potentially become an NXT Super Show? Perhaps their version of WrestleMania, an NXT only Super Show.
Well, they kind of class the NXT before SummerSlam. They're almost WrestleMania, don't they? That's the one that they made the biggest noise about.
Yeah.
But yet, as far as classic events are concerned, War Games is their
yes, because that's
WCW ripoff.
Because that's the only one that has a name other than Takeover. Takeover is part of the name, but it's actually it's got War Games as as a title.
Yeah, which is what they did with the main roster with what was it? Vengeance Clash of Champions, I think it was.
That was it, yeah. Vengeance Clash of Champions. Then that became Clash of Champions then on, didn't it?
Yeah, maybe wrong about that, but yeah. Yeah, now it's gone to Night of Champions.
Because I think, you can see from my notes there, I thought that perhaps with Survivor Series being the brand-on-brand event, should that not really be what happens at Night or Clash of Champions, where you fight Raw versus SmackDown, or as opposed to happening on Survivor Series, where it's just Raw and SmackDown that everyone looks really silly in colour-coordinated clothes just to announce what brand they're on, because that looked really silly.
Do you know what? Do you know what's really, really ridiculous about the SmackDown? The Survivor Series thing.
Nakamura
looked like he was wearing blue pajamas. And I don't know about anybody else. I was so distracted by the blue pajamas that I didn't even see. I couldn't tell you what happened in the match. I know everybody got all this stuff in, but
yes.
But everybody wearing them ridiculous T-shirts. Why? We get it. If you tell the guys to turn up wearing blue or red, we get it. If they are blue, they are SmackDown. If they are red, they are Raw.
I still think it's okay to have that in the Survivor Series match itself. Maybe. But not every other match. Every other match we know that it's Raw versus SmackDown.
I don't know. I kind of like it. I mean, as growing up doing the whole wrestling thing, when you know you're making your own cards and your wrestling games and stuff, it was nice to have like Raw's world champions against SmackDown's world champions and the IC champion against the US champion. I kind of like that they do that, and it kind of you get your main storyline, but every November you're treated to something a bit different, and it gives you those one-off matches that have never happened before anywhere, like Seth Rollins Nakamura.
Yes.
And I kind of like it. It's nice to have that departure from the storylines of what you know where it's going to a big deal. I mean, like the Nakamura Rollins match was just a case of them two having a match. And they mentioned each other in a couple of promos, but that was it. Whereas Ronda against Becky, if we actually did get it, it was a big angle, a huge invasion angle, and it came off badass.
Yes, it did. So I was looking at the ECW events that potentially could be, you know, transplanted and reused. And I guess ECW had its kind of a stalwart pay-per-views. There was like Guilty as Charged. There was WrestlePalooza, which I still think is a terrible name. But November to Remember...
Anything anywhere.
But November to Remember, actually, it's probably was their WrestleMania. That was their Super Show of the year. And it's like, well, could that be used in some kind of way? Because when you think that's a
Why not?
well, because that's like their most violent pay-per-view, right? That was their big show of the year. Or when you think that TLC kind of sits around that time of the year, which effectively is an ECW style pay per view with tables, ladders, and chairs, is it possible that actually that would become or could become November to Remember? I'm trying.
I can't see him doing it just on the basis of one thing, and one thing only.
I know Survivor Series always happens
in
in November.
Vince McMahon's baby. TLC is.
Yeah. Because I get that, of course, that Survivor Series is always traditionally in November, but you can always run that at the end of October, slightly earlier, and then push November to Remember to happen at the end of November, depending on how a year falls out, I guess.
Yeah, but it won't be their November tradition.
No.
Don't mess with tradition, because WWE is all about tradition.
Yes. Okay. Well, again, there's always the option for NXT to do that.
That's true. Yeah. One of the variations of NXT in the future, or maybe they lose their minds finally and give 205 Live their own event.
You see, that's got to happen at some point, right? There's got to be a super show of 205 Live. But then again, you think, if all the talent appears on the 1 hour show, is there any room for it to do a whole 2-3 hour pay-per-view? Or could they even sell out an arena to do so?
I don't know, it's difficult to say. I mean, it's hard enough for them to keep people that turn up to the SmackDown tapings to watch it.
Yeah. So
it's like at the Survivor Series event as well. When Mustafa Ali and Buddy Murphy, two of 205's biggest stars, turned up, most people didn't even know who they were.
And how disappointing is that? I mean, that's their Cruiserweight title. And it was amazing. It was even on the card. I expected it to be on the undercard, on the pre-show. Because the pre-show was 2 hours long.
Yeah. And the thing is, until they started doing some crazy stuff, no one actually even cared who they were.
No.
It's like, who are these two jobbers fighting for that purple belt? What's that even? A cruiserweight belt? Is that still a thing? I think they should have still left a couple of cruiserweight matches on Raw, but actually mean something.
Yeah, because Raw has a 3 hour show. There's no reason why it can't just have a show on there. A match on there. But I guess as it's filmed before, or is it after SmackDown? That perhaps wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah. But, I mean, cruiserweights used to be SmackDown exclusives, didn't they, back in
that's right,
2002?
Yeah, because that's a women were on one and cruiserweights on the other for a while. That was it.
Yeah, and the women on SmackDown was completely pointless because there was nothing to wrestle for.
Yeah, just roll up pin and gravy bowl matches.
Yeah, or maybe we can fight over Al Wilson. If you don't know what that's about,
yeah. Yes.
Oh, dear. That was terrible.
So, dude, we're gearing up here, I guess, towards the end of our podcast part of our show. So, let's just slow down a bit of a gear. So, Wrestle Gaming, I think, is our kind of a little bread and butter little slice here. So, let's just perhaps we should do a separate introduction for this because we always upload this separately as well. So, we're going to do Wrestle Gaming. Our WrestleDX Alpha Wrestle Gaming segment is here. So, we have ran the 16-bit era of video games, the 32-bit, when wrestling games went 3D, what games came out on different consoles at the same time by the same publishers. We've run lots of different wrestle game segments. But what we haven't ran is the strangest hidden characters in wrestling games, because there's been some bizarre ones over the years. I mean, do you want to run down the list? Because there is some bizarre ones out here, perhaps, that if you're not really a gamer, you might not even know who they are. And the character I'm thinking there is Turok.
I mean, some of them as well. It's not even a case of being anybody anyone would know. Like in WCW NWO Revenge, there's AKI Man, who is the people that make it. It's the company's name, Man, and he's dressed like their logo. It's completely ridiculous. And then of course the bosses of WrestleMania 19. And the Master Builder and Black Widow and
Sergeant
Gregory.
Sergeant Gregory, that was it, yeah. So WrestleMania 19 was a strange game, and it was.
Characters.
So in 2018, 2K18, you could play as KFC's mascot, Colonel Sanders.
Because of course,
Ric Flair, of course, is currently sporting the Colonel Sanders look.
Woo!
Get yourself some chicken, boy.
You went all redneck for that. What was that? Dear God.
So there was in 2K11 in WrestleMania. I guess it was still Raw and SmackDown versus 2011. There was the character of Druid.
Yeah, one of the druids that bring out things for the Undertaker and Kane and that. You could play as the druid. Why would you want to? I suppose it's alright for a jobber to beat up, but
I guess that's what it is. It's a character. His model's in the game. Let's do something with him. No one's going to play as him anyway. But hey,
yeah, but all the time there has been so many other times where wrestlers have turned commentator and such, and they're in the game, but they don't make it as a character. Corey Graves, he's only had one appearance in any of the SmackDown series games.
yes, 2K.
But yeah,
13.
I don't think it was that long ago. Maybe 15 or 16. I'd have to
Yeah,
check.
me too.
But still, it's been a couple of years since he has, but he's been on commentary every year since.
Yes.
Yeah, some of the rosters of those games have been so thin that Jim Ross has made it as a character.
Jim Ross actually.
Michael Cole has made it as a character.
Yeah, they've actually popped up a few times as wrestlers, haven't they? In games. And Paul Bearer has popped up a few times. And what's the game where Paul Bearer's in it, but he's got like loads of cruiserweight moves? He's like got.
It's brilliant.
He's got like 450 splashes and swanton
God.
bombs. Yeah, you know, I actually want to say it was like, was it Attitude where that was the case? Oh man, I'm just. It
may have been. Obviously, that would have been a definite rib. Absolutely, that's brilliant.
So there was in WF Attitude, I guess that's what we're talking about now. There was Head, as in Al Snow's head, where it was just a pair of hands and a pair of feet and the head.
Yeah, I mean, who booked that as well?
Completely invisible, transparent
of course,
character.
With like that period of wrestling games, there was Warzone's Ring Girls who come out with like the number cards because, you know, Raw 1993.
Yes. Do you think that's a missing?
Amazing because Warzone didn't come out until '98.
You know what? You're right on that. But perhaps that was that was something that happens at the shows that we didn't get to see, that the Ring Girl still existed. You know,
Maybe, but I can't imagine that being the case. But then again, during that time period, they got Sunny to come out and do everything else. So
you know what?
She wasn't a wrestler and she wasn't with anybody, so they got her to come out and do commentary or guest announcing.
Yeah. So we had in Attitude's precursor that was WF Warzone, you had Turok, which I mentioned earlier. Because I just think it's such a random thing, but I guess unless Acclaim, who are the producers of Warzone and Attitude, they also published Turok the Dinosaur Hunter, and he was featured in the game. It had the moves of The Rock because he had like the Rock Bottom as his finisher, tornado DDTs, and I guess Acclaim just stuck him in there because it was their license, so they wanted to go. There's someone in here who's our character. We've got to have this too. We've got to have our slice of this.
Well, you've got to make sure you put over your other games through wrestling games.
Yeah, why not? I guess why not? And I'm looking at that list, and I'm also talking about that. So, trying to put over your own list. THQ staff, the staff of THQ, the developers of WCW NWA Thunder, appeared in the game. Whether they appeared in the Nitro book that came before, I don't remember, but they're definitely in Thunder. But these were characters that no one's ever going to play as. But if you were a developer, that was pretty cool.
Kind of. You know, it'd be great to see yourself get jackknifed by Kevin Nash, I guess, without actually taking the bump yourself. But, yeah. But who cares? Who's picking them? I mean, I can understand, because as I mentioned before, WCW Nitro came out first and that had 64 characters. And then, of course, to make it bigger, they brought out Thunder and they had 128 characters. And as soon as you've used all of the wrestlers, all of the managers, all of the commentators, all of the refs, you might as well go with your staff. And then after that, you go for, as I've mentioned here, the Wackies.
I don't remember the Wackies, so you're going to have to inform me on this one.
The Wackies were just a collection of ridiculous things. It's like, oh, I know what we shall do. We'll have a praying mantis as a wrestler, or a star, or a cowboy, an alien, a horse, a knight. Just random things like that.
Yeah, I must have missed that. I'm trying to work out if I ever actually had Thunder, and that's probably why. Because I'm probably glad I didn't in many ways.
To be honest, if anybody's played Nitro or Thunder, you'll know that there's the only one reason you own that game, and it was only on the PlayStation version as well.
Yeah.
Was the promo section. You
Yeah.
press a different button on the character select screen, and then they'd go into a rant.
Yeah. And that was the only reason. You know.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin Nash would sit there and go, like, don't pick me. Go pick Hogan. Go pick Piper. You don't have the dexterity or the mental skills. And you go over to Piper, and you press on this, he goes, pick me! Pick me! Oh, Kevin Nash said don't pick him, pick me! Why? Because everyone's got to pay the Piper.
I can remember you could make the game faster by turning like the ring graphics off and turning the crowd off, so you had a superly fast ring what ran at like a higher frame rate.
Turbo ring.
Yeah.
It literally was like the box for the ring and ropes without any posts and no audience.
No. But the game certainly played much faster. It was like 60 frames a second after that, something stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, but why did you want to? Because there's only like 8 moves in the entire game.
Yeah, just up powerbomb. Up in circle for powerbomb, down in circle for power driver. And everyone had exactly the same fucking move as us.
It was like button combinations.
No, you're right, yeah. You're right.
It was like for a suplex, it was like circle, triangle, X.
That was it, yeah.
Or for a pile drive, it was circle, square, triangle, or something like that. It was 3 button combinations.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, up XX circle, yeah, that was it. Yeah.
They were pretty games. They were really nice to look at. At that time, there was way nicer looking than Warzone and Attitude. But Warzone and Attitude had much better gameplay at that time.
Yeah. And when you play it now, it's like, oh my god, forward.
Yeah, it's kind of like Street Fighter moves to get moves out of them. I mean, Attitude had a much better creative wrestler option and a bigger roster. But Warzone had a smaller roster, but so many moves.
Yes.
You could pause and have a look at the moves list, and then there was hidden ones as well.
See, I actually liked the hidden moves, the fact they weren't on there, because in the term of pre-internet, or really early internet, the way you got around it is you read magazines, you talked to your friends who knew what moves were, and you always had that mate who didn't know what they were, and you could beat the fuck out of them. And actually, that was a really good community thing. And even when I play like Warzone, that I might put it on, I can still remember with them as well. So.
Yeah, and it was funny as well because like you had all your moves in that, and if you was Mankind, prime example, you could do your mandible claw finisher.
Or you did it.
If you knew the secret combination, you could do it to the opponent who was laying on the floor.
Yes, you could.
You could go over to the head and do the secret combination and do the mandible claw on the ground. And it was like, wow, that's awesome. You could do his finisher from different positions. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like the Taker and Kane had the same moves actually in that game, but they had like the choke slam, and there was like the hidden choke slam from a grapple.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Bam.
But that was true. That was cool, and I was like, I thought The Rock had like a hidden Hurricane Rana, and Triple H had like a senton off the top or something stupid.
Yeah, and Shawn Michaels had the figure 4, which was, I thought was cool. I love the fact that he had that.
Yeah.
Because it was a move that he occasionally did, but not always. It was rare that he did do it.
Yes. Like Taker's like Taker's drop toe hold. It was in there, only because he did it rarely.
Yeah. It was nicely done. It was well done.
But so other characters that kind of sit around that kind of era then. So you have in 2K16, which is perhaps the worst of the 2K games in my opinion. There was Terminator. There was Arnold Schwarzenegger in there for no reason whatsoever.
Oh, it's because Arnold Schwarzenegger went into the Hall of Fame that year, so obviously the Terminator needs to be in there.
Which still makes no sense. Why was he even nominated?
Because he turned up on a SmackDown once, and Triple H was having a match, and Triple H tried to get the title to whack the opponent, and Arnie wouldn't give it him. Then Arnie would give him like a backhand, and then gave him some of the worst fake punches I think I've ever seen.
Wait,
Oh my god!
is
I'm
there
going to try and find that as well on the network and post that so people know what they're looking for.
is there therefore is there a potential then that characters like Jerry Springer and Donald Trump actually might enter the Hall of Fame?
Donald Trump is in the Hall of Fame.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
The thing's, he actually took that like a full trooper as well. That thing with Vince McMahon, he did a full-on fucking spear. He got those punches in there. He actually is great. Got the chair shots in there and everything. Yeah, Donald Trump was a fucking trooper.
Do you know what? In all fairness to him as well, I think it was the WrestleMania where it was, you know,
The Battle of the Billionaires.
him and the Battle of the Billionaires, where they used the avatar versions of themselves to beat each other up. Bobby Lashley versus Umaga,
Yeah.
and the billionaire that lost ended up getting his head shaved.
Yes.
And Trump actually took a Stone Cold Stunner.
He did, and it's just
And,
like that's great.
And do you know what? Vince put it forward. Trump says, "Will it help the angle?" Vince said yes, and apparently all of his minders were like, "No, you can't do that. You can't do anything physical. No.
Let's do it."
Like, no, I'm taking it. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's one of the worst stunners ever. But all the power to him. He took it. He took that stuff.
That's a guy who literally believed in what he was doing. And like you said there, will it make it better? Yes, and he did it. Trooper.
Will it help it get over? And it did.
Full trooper. So is there anybody else on that list? Because I'm looking down it and I'm going, do I even want to dare mention Tony from 2009 SmackDown?
Tony was a military personnel. I think they had a repeatedly cut and paste in one of their tribute to the troops.
That was it. Yes.
Background type things. So they decided to use him for a storyline, and for whatever reason they decided to put him on a...
You know what? I actually remember that now. I do. I can remember that now. When you said that, it just, it kind of trickled through and I was like, I remember. And in SmackDown 2010, there was Red and Green. What the hell's that? I don't remember that.
Red and Green, they was the characters from, you know when you're picking your moves for your created wrestler?
Got you.
Red would take it, Green would perform it.
Right.
Or you could use the Red and Green characters.
Okay. Fair enough.
Because, of course, that's what I wanted to do. It's like, oh no, can I use Triple H or K? Yes, but I don't want to. I want to use Red and Green. I want to make Red and Green the tag team champions because awesome.
And perhaps the strangest one out of all is the most random one, is yourself. Create a character in WWF WrestleMania Challenge.
Yes, they knew that you obviously couldn't, create a wrestler back in the 8-bit era, so they created a character called Yourself. You could play as yourself to win the World Championship.
Yeah.
We've also missed one more as well.
Have we missed one?
Fred Durst.
SmackDown Just Bring It, which was like 2001, 2?
Just Bring It? No. Yes, yeah, you're right, absolutely right. Yeah, 2001.
So
the first PlayStation one, PlayStation 2.
It was, yeah, one that had very small roster of characters. So yeah, it's obviously when Taker was sporting his big red machine. No, what was it? Big Evil.
The American Badass.
Yeah, the Big Evil. Which I expected when he came back last time. That's what he would be like. He'd be back on his motorcycle again. But hey, these things happen. Of course, Rolling was his music, and Fred Durst was the player. But yeah, he was in there as a character, wasn't
he? Yeah, even complete with a last ride finisher. Because that's what you want to see. A red cap midget, let Red last riding everyone.
I'm now wondering, did Fred Durst turn up in Anarchy Rules as well in the ECW game? Because he's on the intro, isn't he? Because there was that whole thing with Steve Corino and Fred Durst where he'd come out and slapped his microphone out of his hand, which ECW ran. I was part of their promos for like ages after that, and I'm now thinking actually Fred Durst was in.
Of course they did.
Was in either Hardcore Revolution or Anarchy Rules. Because there was a bunch of stupid characters in there as well.
Because of course there was.
Yeah, of course there was. I'm actually tempted to have a look now. ECW, Anarchy Rules.
Dramatic pause.
Yes. Character list, let's go. Because someone's bound to create a list out there. Because people love creating lists. Like, Wikipedia, do we dare? Do we dare look on there? Now just loads of modes. In all fairness, thinking about W Anarchy Rules, as I used to be Anarchy Rules, there was like a lava match in that game. There was like a fire pit all on the outside. It was lava.
Of course there was.
Because yeah,
it says hardcore like lava.
Apart from the music, the game was pretty terrible actually. But
yeah,
no...
by that time they ran it on the same Warzone engine.
Yeah.
And by then it really ran its course, with SmackDown being available and
Royal Rumble,
WCW Revenge,
yeah,
which were two much better engines out there at the time, and then they were still rocking that old system, which it was great in 98-99. But then SmackDown came along and just went, farewell to that rubbish. Look at this, it's gorgeous everywhere, and we have moves, and we have rosters bigger than anything you've seen.
No, he wasn't on the roster. However, I see Cyrus is there, commentator, and Elektra was on there as well. And Joel Gertner were actually playable characters, but no, Fred Durst wasn't. So my memory might have been slipping me there. But hey.
But even then, you can still argue the fact that Cyrus was actually an active wrestler in the WWE.
He was, yeah.
And Joel Gertner was involved in a couple of matches in ECW.
He was indeed.
I can't say the same for Elektra, but still.
Who was it who took the power driver through the table? That was Francine, wasn't it? Rhino power driver through the table, yeah.
And Sandman's wife.
Yeah. She took it pretty bad as well. She went wrestling again after that.
She also was cradled in Sandman's arms, and Rhino saw fit to
pull beard chest.
Sandman through the table while we were still holding him.
Nice spot as well.
Which was an up down.
Yeah, no, that was it. The roster didn't have that. But so that was our Wrestle Gaming feature for this week. That was pretty crazy actually, because the amount of stuff that was actually going on in that. So that was the strangest hidden characters ever to be found in wrestling games. If you've got any more, because I bet there are out there. Because I'm thinking of games now like some of the random Japanese ones that are bound to have featured stupid stuff, like Pepsi Man or some shit like that. If you know them, post them in the links below, because I want to see more bizarre characters in wrestling games. So this, from me, this is Kristian, that's Kev, we're out of here. Thank you very much for joining us here today. This was WrestleDX Alpha. Follow us on Twitch, as well as on Facebook and on... I guess we have to have a Twitter set up, right? Because people, I guess, are going to want to message our way, and we need to get more social out there. But do follow us on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch, and we will see you on the next game, our next episode, rather, very, very soon. Well...